In this lesson I will go through what the flow map is and how you can create one. But before that I will just show you how you can make a single texture move in the X and Y direction, because that will be the base for you later on when you think about how the difference are between this way of making things and using a flow map that I will show later on. So to make a texture move we need a texture, so I press Shift A, go to texture and select image texture. So with image texture here, just select it so you have it in, and then we need a texture, so just press open and find a texture in your resources called water.jpg and put that in. That is a texture that I took from textures.com, and I just connect the color to the base color here and go to render view, and then you see this texture. And if I now want to move it, I need to connect it to the frames down here, so I need an input, so I press Shift A, input, and go to value, so select value, and then I write this thing here, and then with small letters, frame. And as soon as I do that, it will then move when I move the frames down here. But moving one step at a time is really fast because it's one complete UV between 0 and 1, so nothing will happen. We have to divide it in very small pieces here. We can use the modular that we used before, or we can divide. It's up to you. You can even multiply with 0 point something. We can divide in this case, so I can press Shift A, and then I go converter and math, and I select divide and put the value in the top, and I can put 100 in the bottom. So it will go 100 times before this changes into 1. And then I need to have some UV for this texture, so I press Shift A again, go to input and the texture coordinate. And we use the UV for that. And now we need to connect this part here with the UV here. So I can put it a bit up here so it's easier, and add an add in here. So Shift A, converter, and vector math, and in your vector math you just connect it first with the UV and the second one with this one, but you need to combine it with the combine XYZ. So Shift A again, converter, combine XYZ. I just put that in here, and you can put this into the X here, and the add goes into the water vector here. And if I now play this, you can see that the texture is moving, and if I change it to -100 down here, it's moving in the other direction, and if I change it to Y instead of X, it will then move up, and of course it will move down if I go back to 100 here. So it moves, and you could think that, okay, but then I can use this in a game or something like that to make a river flow in a good way. But it doesn't look like a good way, because you can still see that this is like a static image that is just moving. Perhaps if you're doing something static that is not like water, so let's take a road for instance. You're going on a road, then this thing would work. But for water it's not so good, and that is why they invented something called flow map. And the flow map will then distort different pixels in here, so it looks more that it's moving around, so the texture will get distorted. And you use like a color thing with that, so you use X as here for red, moving in X direction, red move X, Y will then go up and down, so green will then go up and down. And the standard for a flow map is that you use half of the X and half of the Y to make it stand still. So a value of 0.5 of green and 0.5 of red will make it stand still. So when you then go to a lesser value of red, it will go on the left direction, and when a higher value comes in for red, it will go to higher, go to the right, so to say, and the same with the Y. And if I just take down this and go in here, then you can see it more clear. So this is just an image for showing you those directions. So if I want everything to stand still, it will be this ugly color here. If I want it to go to the left like this, then I just take away all the red, so it's only green left. And if I go here, then I add some red here. And you can see here 255 is like the maximum amount of red, and in Blender, as I wrote here, it's just 1. So here the green is 0.5 and so on, which means that you put 0.5 of the green and red here, it will not move. And this is only with red and green, so blue doesn't exist in a flow map. Okay, so in reality, how does it look? I use the same texture here as I did in the last example, but now you can see it really moves like a river or floating slowly down the stream in some way here. And that is the same texture, so the only thing I added was this flow map that then distort the texture. And you can do these things in GIMP or Photoshop, manually draw things, but there are also tools that you can use. Some are free and some are of course cost some money. But if you want a free tool that is rather primitive but it works, then I suggest you to go to this side here, so TechArtist.com, and then you have a page ID of 107. So just pause the video that I'm doing now, write this, scroll down and select download for Windows, which then means that you will get this software in just like a zip, and then you just extrude that or expand that, and then you have your exe file. So it's a good tool. It's a little bit primitive, since you can see it was done 2012, which means that you have to manually write in paths for textures and so on, but it really works. So pause your video, load it in, and then I will show you how the tool works. So I will just take down this and I will take up the tool, and you will get then what type of screen resolution you have. And since I'm now doing this tutorial, I go for this resolution, or normally I use the maximum resolution, but this will work fine for me. And you can put whatever graphic you want, but it will handle fantastic without problem in most computers these days. So then you just press play, and when you press play you get this little thing here, and that texture follows with the tool, so you have it in directly. And all you have to do now, if you want to do a texture, is more or less just to paint. And as soon as you start to paint, it calculates how the color should be, and it shows you how it will be. So if I now press vertical colors here, then you can see you get these colors in where you have a bit of red here, and when it goes up you get more green here and so on. And those are the colors that I showed you before. So they are in here, and you can also see flow lines which show you what direction everything is going. But I can take away those two, and you can see that we get this circular shape, and I would like to have that in Blender as well. So then we can bake the texture, but we need to check flip red and flip green, and the reason for that is that UV map that we normally use in Blender is not standard. So Unity has some type, Unreal has some other type. There's a software on the web that is called ShaderToy that has some type of UV. Everyone is going from 0 to 1, but they start in different positions. So in Blender it's like the lower left corner that has 0. So to make this tool work with Blender, you just have to press flip red and flip green. Then you write what your texture will be named. I put mine as flow map example, and then just press bake to texture. So then you have it, and you get this window up here where it shows you that, okay, now everything is saved, so all you have to do is close that window and you are good to go. So then you can just close this as well. But before I do that, I can just tell you that if you will do this for a game, then you normally have some rocks in here, or you have a narrow stream that goes down, and you would only would like to paint on those places. And then you can add an overlay texture. And it's the same way as before, that you have to manually write here the path and the name of the texture. But after that you can just press load overlay texture, and you will get all the stuff in here so that you easily can paint the direction you want the water or lava or I don't know, whatever, go in that direction that you want to go. So that is how that works. So now I close this one and we get in here, and as you can see now we have it in and it works fine. But we need to make this with our nodes as well. So we can take away what I have, and I can take away this stone as well. It was mostly just for a demonstration. And we can go in here to our shader editor, so we have it in, and we can also add a new material and connect it like this. So now everything is like new. And what we need is two types of textures. So we need a water. So Shift A, go to texture and select your image texture and open the demo that is called, or I don't know where I will put it yet because I've not saved it into the Udemy folders right now. But these will be included, and there will be some file called water. So just select the water one, and that you just connect to the base color of your principle, and it's in here. And that is just the texture that I found on textures.com. So you can find your own water texture if you want some other texture or lava or whatever you would like to have that should flow or change or distort in some way. But this texture is what I use, and then we created this in the tool that we need, so that flow map. So Shift A again and texture, and I select an image texture here and open again and go to the tool texture that I did, and I was calling my texture was called flow map example, so I select that one. So we have that in as well, and if I just take that directly to base color, it looks like this. Now there is the first trap that you need to see and change. This is data. As we have heard someone says, I say data, but it's data, not color. Which means that we need to change the color space to a non-color. So we use non-color here on the flow map, because otherwise you will get distortion that you don't want. You only want these as data from like 0 to 1. And to make this work, we also need to convert this, because now it goes from 0 to 1, and as I showed you in the image before, let's see if I can find it, this one, then this is not 0. This is not a color of 0, it's a color of 0.5. So if I am going to multiply my frames with this, it would go forward and forward, since this is 0.5. So I need to make this 0 here. So it need to go from -1 to +1, -1 to +1 in both the x and in the y direction to work with my math. So I need to convert the color into those numbers. So I will now go back to my shader editor and do that. So we have it in here, and what I then can do is I can multiply my values with 2. So instead of 0 to 1, I have now 0 to 2, since I multiply with 2. And then I can just subtract with 1, and then I get a -1 to a +1. And I can do that for both colors, but to make this really clear, I divide the color into a red channel and a green channel. You can do it with fewer amounts of nodes, but this is more clear when I do the explanation. So I do a separate here, separate of color, and we will only use the red and the green. And as I said, we need to do a transformation here where we then convert this from 0 to 1 into -1 and a +1. So we start with the red, and I just multiply it with 2 down here, and then we subtract with 1. So subtract like that, and put 1 here, and we just take those two and press Shift D, copy, so we also have them for the green channel. So now they are more friendly to work with when it comes to the math. And the red will then be the X direction, and the green will be the Y direction. So now we also need some frames in, so I press Shift A, input value, and I will change this so it works with the frames, which means that I write it like this and with small letters frame. So now I have it in, and it changes into the number I have on my timeline. And then I need some divisions here, so I press divide, or right divide, and I can put 100 here, so we have it slow. And I will also add a fraction here, so I put a fraction here because I don't want this to go over 1, I only want it to go to 1 all the time. So we go to 0 to 1 and then starts over 0 to 1, 0 to 1. So we don't get values higher than that, because then we go over the range that we have in our flow map, and it will be very distorted and very wrong. So just use a fraction here to just cut, so we never get over 1. Then I would like to control the strength of it, and that I can do with the multiply here as well. So I can just add a multiply to all these things. So I press here converter and a math, and I will add a multiply. So I put in a multiply, put that in here, and I can just press Shift D, copy that one. It will look exactly the same here. And then I will need another value in where I can control how much strength I would like to the flow map. So I press Shift A, input a value here. I can put it to 0.1, just so we have something in. And we just drag that in here, and we drag it in here. So now we have that. And now is more or less just to connect it with our water here. So we need an UV map. So press Shift A, input texture coordinate. And we use the UV to this, but we also add these things in. And then this was, as I said, X, and this was Y. So we need to combine them. So Shift A, converter, combine X, Y, Z. And we drag the first to the X and the next one to the Y, and then just add it together with the UV. So Shift A, converter, vector math, add UV in here, and add here, and connect that to this one. And now for the big moment, we start to play here and see if something happens. And right now, not so much is happening what I can see. So let's see if we have missed anything here. We have our flow map example in. It's in non-color. We separate red and green. We convert it. We put in a value. We have something here that is, we have not connected the frames to this. So we need, of course, to connect that. So if we just move this just a little bit, I can take those as well to the right, and we put in a multiply here together with the fraction, then I think there should be something happening. So a multiply, put that in here, and we take a multiply and we put that in here. So now if I press play, you can see that it's rotating now in the middle here. We can increase the strength a bit, and it should then go a little bit faster. You can see it works really good. But if you now look here, you can also see that it goes okay a part of the time, and then it just jumps back again. And that is when the fraction reaches 1, then it goes back to 0 and it starts over. And we would more like to have a wave, so it goes slowly back again, but without changing the direction. We will still just want it to go in this direction. And the way to do that is that we copy this texture here, and then we mix this texture with the same texture, but we move the fraction forward in time by adding like 0.5. So by doing that, we can then say that in a certain time it will show only this, then it will slowly glide over from this into this, and then we get more slow reaction, and it will work really fine. And that means that we need this once more. So I press Shift D, copy it, and then I put not this one because I will use another one, but I will use a mix in here. So Shift A, and then I go to color, mix RGB, put that in here, so we have those two. So now it works with the top one, and when I have it here, you can see it's now still because we have not connected anything. It works with this one. So to make everything work in a good way now, we then add another thing here that do exactly the same thing that we have done all the way here, but instead of fraction up here, we add 0.5 and then we connect the fraction. So if we start with just taking these three things up here, and I do a Shift D to copy that one, and then I Shift D to copy this one and change the first one to add 0.5, put this in here and then put that in here. Then this will be a little bit faster, so it will go 0.5 step faster than this one, and that we can use when we then mix stuff. So after that, it's more or less just to do all the copies, all the things that this is doing, but a little bit faster. So that means that everything we have done here, we can just copy and press Shift D, so we have that for the second fraction as well. So we have this separate color that we then can use red to the top and green to the bottom here. And then you see that the formula is the same all the way. And then here is something that comes in, which we forgot the last time, and that is the fraction, and now it's a lower fraction, the one that we added with 0.5. So I take that here so we can see a little bit closer what I'm doing, but in fact I'm just doing the same as I did before. So connect that to the multiply, connect that to the multiply, and we have that in. So it's a similar thing here. So we could do a node group out of this, but I now do it step by step. So, and of course we need the same strength as we have for the first one. So we copy also this part here, pressing Shift D, copy like that, and put in the multiply to the bottom, and these two here, the last multiply, we put into the strength. So I take down the value, a lot of scrolling back and forth, but it's just for you to see. This is the strength value, and I put that here, and I put it here, so now we all have it, and I can just minimize this or take it down a bit so we don't have to go back and forth so much anyway. So now we have everything in here. So the top part here is doing exactly the same as the lower part here, except that it added 0.5 into the fraction. So then we can use this add for the lower part as well. Use this UV. It doesn't matter if we put it in this direction or that direction, but it looks nice in this way. And just put that into our UV here. So now we have it, and if I look at that, it moves, and if I look at the first one, it moves. So both moves, and if I put in 0.5, you can say two different things are moving right now, but we still have that thing that everything is jumping a bit back and forth. So what we need to do more is that we need to adjust this one so it goes back and forth in the same rate or speed that we have for the top fraction here. So if I take the top fraction down here, and then I use the same formula I used here, so I multiply, because I would like this to go negative and positive, but not really. I would like this to be so it's 0, 1 and 0, so it goes like a wave up and down. But we start with making it a -1 and then a +1 and 0 in the middle, and then we add an absolute in the end, and then it will go to be 1, 0, 1 in a wave pattern. So it will be almost the same. So I multiply with 2, and I take this one, subtract with 1, and I will add the absolute. So Shift D for copy, change this into an absolute. See if we can find it somewhere here. There we have it. Put it in here, and now you can connect that absolute into the mix for our mix shader. So I put it up here, and if everything is correct now, which it looks like, I can just stop this and start it all over. I drew something that was just going around, and as you can see now, it goes around, and you don't have that snap. It just continues in a good flow, and even if I go to 250 and then it starts all over again, you can't see any changes. Everything works just splendid. So this is how you create a flow map, and with that you can do fantastic things just using two textures, and you can control exactly how you want your flow to be. And normally you do like that you make the complete flow map just moving in one direction, so that is the main direction. Then you perhaps have a rock or something that is in the way, and then you just draw lines around that rock, and it will then divide the direction so it looks like it runs side by side of the rock, so it gets a really natural movement. So it's a fantastic little thing, the flow map, and of course it's a lot of nodes here, but you can make node groups out of it, and you can, as I said before, since everything here is the same, you don't have to separate the color. You can do the math already here, even if it happens for the blue as well, but we're not using the blue to shorten down the amount of nodes here. But this was more, as I said, to show you every little step on the way, what happens with X and what happens with Y and so on. So I hope you learned how a flow map works, and I just say bye for now and see you in the next lesson.